So the reason I actually built this 14-inch bandsaw is so that I could experiment with trying to use it as a sawmill. So I built this seed frame. This is my prototype, which allows me to move the bandsaw over a log, and I can also move it up and down with this crank here. But I've already figured out a whole bunch of improvements that I want to make to this frame, so I'm going to build a second one, and I'll take video of building it this time.
So I started by gluing together some beams out of 2x4s, and then I squared those off on the joiner.
So here's my frame. It's made out of bits of 2x4 glued together, and these fit into each other like so. And this one's fairly tight, this one's a bit looser. And that makes the frame, and I need to connect that very rigidly at the corners. So the easy thing would be to glue it, but that would make it harder for me to store and move this frame. So I'm going to bolt these things on here, and then I'm going to put some long bolts through the whole thing to really squeeze it together and give it a tight friction fit. And that should make the frame nice and stiff so I don't run into vibration problems so much. So I've just cut a slot in my guide post, and there's going to be a piece of wood about this size that I'm going to attach to the bottom of the bandsaw, and that will ride up and down in this slot, and that will guide the bandsaw fairly precisely so it stays parallel and in position as I move it up and down.
Next I glue the plywood corners onto the horizontal member, and I also glue a block onto the vertical beam for attaching it to the base. Because I want to be able to take this frame apart again for moving it, I'm only bolting it together in the corners, and I have to drill some holes all the way through those corners. So the wheels this thing is going to ride on are just rollerblade wheels, which I got cheap out of some used rollerblades. And they're attached with these bolts that I'm just threading straight into an unthreaded hole in the wood. That actually gives quite a lot of hold because these threads do engage the wood, and then the solid part really sticks in there. So the wheels roll on this track, which has got sides angled at 45 degrees, and that guides the whole thing side to side. As well, the slope actually allows the sawdust to mostly slide off the side, so that it doesn't become too inaccurate as I start getting sawdust against the rail.